Coming to Grand Rapids, Michigan on September 21st and 22nd is GrandCon Gaming and Comics Convention, presented by Celebration Cinemas. Join us in playing or chatting it up with fellow enthusiasts in a community that understands your passions. Get lost in the adventure of your favorite role-playing game. Admire costumes and art from vendors and attendees. Meet the creators behind your favorite mainstream and independent games and comic books. Check out unpublished games and sneak peek at things to come. You can get all this and more at GrandCon. For more information, please visit www.grand-con.com.
Hurry, Skeletor, hurry! I am hurrying, I'm hurrying!
Welcome to The Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with the rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
Hello and welcome to the Pull Bag. This is episode 22. I am your host, TFG1 Mike, and holy crap, ladies and gentlemen, making his The Pull Bag debut, someone that has been with us for a very, very, very long time, someone who at this point probably hates podcasting, someone who loves television, was never a comic fan at all. So this is going to be really interesting to hear what his thoughts are on our topic today. Mr. OptimusSolo, hello, sir.
Hello, sir. I am here. I am making I'm appearing on a comic book podcast.
Yes, you are.
How did that happen?
Well, it's He-Man. You know, you like Man.
I don't even know the last time I read a comic book. Besides.
Well, if anyone listens to our Man of Steel episode, you've never read a comic book.
I don't think I think I've maybe looked at pages here and there. Some graphic novels, some Transformer stuff. But yeah, comic book has been a while. Yeah,
so this is going to be really interesting because, sometimes what I'll do is, way back in episode 14 of the show, when I had Adas Baron on, I did the intro was kind of hit how he got it. Basically, that episode was a combination of his origins into comics and us actually reviewing the 2012 Masters of the Universe miniseries that DC did. Here, we can't really do an origins episode with you because you just stated you've read a graphic novel here and there, but you're not a comic book guy.
I just never have had the time to get into it.
You're too skinny to be a comic book guy.
What's that?
I said, then again, you're too skinny to be a comic book guy.
That's true. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a reference.
I have lots of stuff to read and on my list of stuff to do, and comic books is just way down. I have about, I don't know, 40 or 50 Star Wars novels to read before I get to comic books. I've been piece by piece putting together a collection of all the I don't know if you want to call them canon or licensed or whatever Star Wars novels.
Is it the expanded universe?
No, just any Star Wars novel. Basically, it goes from all different time periods. But I'm piecing all that together first, and then once I have them all, I will start reading from the beginning chronologically through all the novels and.
Oh, okay, piece by piece collecting. I got you.
Yeah. So that's on my reading list, but that's going to take a while.
Yes. I had to send these issues to Kevin digitally.
I appreciate it.
Yes. And I've already written reviews up of these. So I've done written reviews. I've done I think the He-Man one, I did spoil it a little bit, but the Skeletor and the Hordak one are spoiler-free for the written reviews, and I figure, write a spoiler-free review and then do a podcast and spoil the shit out of it.
It's always fun to spoil things.
Yes, it's always fun to spoil things. So yes, we will be talking about the 3 origin of one-shot issues that DC has been putting out over the last couple of months. It's going to be really interesting because I know that over on our other podcast, one of the other podcasts that we do on Tales of Eternia, we have been begging for the cartoon to give us backstory, which it has never done to this point.
Little bits and pieces, but
right, little bits and pieces, but this is like the way I see these comics, specifically the He-Man and the Skeletor one, is it's the backstory we've never, we didn't get in the cartoon series, is specifically to the Filmation cartoon series, because Tales of Eternia is all about the 83 Filmation He-Man show. So we are going to take a quick break. After that, we're going to come back with Masters of the Universe, Origin of He-Man.
By the power of GRayskull!
Alright, as I said before, Masters of the Universe, Origin of He-Man. It is written by Joshua Hale Fialkov. I think that's how his last name is supposed to be pronounced. I don't know. The art is done by Ben Oliver. The cover is He-Man holding the Power Sword and looking at himself in the image. What do you think of the cover?
I like the cover. I think having He-Man, obviously being it's Origin of He-Man, so obviously we need He-Man. I think having the sword is a good idea. I think him looking into it and seeing that reflection is kind of good as far as getting inside He-Man a little bit and trying to, see that this is a serious, complex, complicated character. I don't quite know how I feel about the amount of blood splattered on the sword.
I was going to ask you about that.
I do like the placement of his chest.
His chest piece, yeah.
Piece, and how that fits onto the sword. I just don't know about the blood. First of all, it seems weird to me that there's a lot of blood on the more towards the handle of the sword here.
Yeah.
And it just seems weird in general to see blood there. I kind of would.
Well, there are droplets if you look up above the logo.
Yeah, but it just seems like there's a lot down here, and I would probably prefer this if there was no blood. But I guess it's setting the tone that this is a serious and not your kid-friendly version of He-Man, I guess.
Right. Yeah. This was originally on the DC website. I think it's still up there on DCComics.com. The solicitation that they have up for this, and I'll put the link in the post, is this image, but he's blue and his hair is basically Faker. So I'll have to show that to you later. But no, it's very cool. It's very interesting. It's very simple. It's not It's basically the origin of He-Man, and what do we always think of when we think of He-Man? We think of that chest piece, that He-Man symbol, that H shield thing, and the Power Sword.
And I do like that it's completely white other than that, and there's nothing else in the background.
Yeah. It's very, very, very cool. We open it up, and the story to this point is... basically, Adam is, I assume, trapped. We see a shadow of Skeletor. Now, this is going to be interesting for us because I've never really thought this through. And we can also bring this up multiple years down the line when we get to our other Masters of the Universe cartoon show. I didn't realize. I don't know. It skipped. It must have skipped a beat in my brain or something, because Skeletor is his uncle. I've never put that together, because Keldor and Randor are brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I just, when I read this, I was like, holy crap!
Right.
So you've got a nice shot. You've got several nice shots of the Power Sword. You've got Adam there, basically trying to reach for it, and we open up to a beautiful splash page because in the page previous he says, "I have the," and then on this splash page. He says he yells power.
It's just, I guess we see a formation there from Adam to He-Man right in front of Skeletor.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, he does. Well, see, that's the thing. He does. Skeletor in this story. Skeletor knows. He has to. Well, obviously, he sees it because on the first page he says "Good riddance, nephew." So he knows that that's Adam under the rocks, and then
Yeah,
Adam
he knows Adam, but he doesn't necessarily know that He-Man is. I wouldn't think at the beginning.
Right, but see, that's the thing is where that first page he knows he doesn't know that like his line here is no. How can it be? I am the next to wield the power sword. I almost said the master sword. That's a Legend of Zelda weapon. But he's, as you said, he sees Adam transform right in front of him, so we automatically know. Right now, he knows Adam is He-Man.
Yeah, but then he says, "Who are you?" Right
Yeah,
after that.
that's a little weird.
So there's a little confusion because he acknowledges Adam,
Yes.
and now he sees He-Man. Maybe he's not putting two and two together that they were just the same person, and now he's asking He-Man, "Who is he?"
Yeah.
And then it just starts, and then obviously we have a lot of different flashbacks, flash forwards throughout this whole book, which to me is a little bit weird at times, as far as why they decided to do it quite like this. But I guess you just have to pay attention and read carefully and piece it all together as far as which time you're in at what point.
Yeah. Well, see, the way I looked at it is that it's the beginning is like this is what's happening now, and then the scene here on this next page with the palace and the king and queen's bedroom is like 6 weeks earlier, 6 months earlier. It's like this is the flashback, but on this page here, I love these colors. I love these blues and purples.
Yeah.
And the shading, just the shading in the shadows, like the shade. It's so simple, but it's so amazing what Ben Oliver did with the shading on the windows.
Mm-hmm.
When Adam says, "You are scaring me, father, mother," that panel right there. That I don't know. That shading is just so well done.
So he's searching for his parents. And I guess he's not necessarily seeing them.
Yeah.
But then he does. I don't know. That whole section's kind of confusing to me because he's searching for them.
It is confusing.
It looks like they're in their bed. He pulls the covers off and says, "Gods of Eternia," and then there's a picture of them. I don't know if that's them like petrified. I don't know if that's them.
They're frozen. There's some sort of spell on them or something.
Yeah, and then we have Skeletor again asking He-Man, "Who are you?"
Joke from above.
Some creation of the sorceress, etc. And he comes right out and says that he's He-Man.
Yeah.
And then they kind of have a little battle.
I love that they're not even showing you Skeletor's face yet. Yeah. Oh, well, they show it on the next panel there, but this page here, this where he's asking him this, I love that purple background and just the way that they're both in shadow and battle.
Mm-hmm.
And on the next page, you have how it's Skeletor cloaked,
right?
And then I've seen many creepy designs of Skeletor before, but this by far has to be the creepiest.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Facial design of Skeletor.
He's basically taking it to He-Man at that point.
Yeah, he's pretty much kicking his ass.
And then it's kind of another weird, jarring thing here because we go from Skeletor. Well, we basically go from Skeletor to battling He-Man, then we go flashback again.
Yeah,
this is him after seeing his petrified parents, and he's trying to figure out what the heck's going on, and then now him as Adam runs into Skeletor, and he wants to know who he is and what is he doing here. So apparently Adam at that point doesn't know who Skeletor is.
Yeah, and you notice the difference in the facial features between Adam and He-Man?
Oh yeah,
ever so slight, but
they did a good job with that.
Yeah. Wow, Skeletor's design on the next page. The young whelp managed to escape my power. So it was a spell that.
Yeah, and then he does say that
spell or a stone spell. But basically, Skeletor is Medusa.
Right, and he definitely acknowledges that he knows it's Prince Adam, etc. Um, so I think that's an interesting thing because now we have Adam basically add his mercy, because he doesn't have the power of He-Man yet because we're flashing back.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have necessarily the ability to turn into He-Man. So he's basically, like I said, at Skeletor's mercy, and it's kind of an interesting dynamic because obviously throughout watching the history of this franchise, we've never seen Adam pre-He-Man where he couldn't battle Skeletor, where he couldn't whip out his sword and turn into He-Man.
Right.
So it's a very interesting dynamic to completely see Skeletor having the upper hand against Prince Adam.
Yeah.
And he basically wants the sword. He says, "Show me the sword of King Grayskull, and I will restore your parents and let them all live.
Yeah.
If not, perhaps I will wear your skull as a crown."
Yeah. The weapon you seek is here. I love how the Power Sword is just relegated to being some old antique, versus having it in the bowels of Grayskull or at the Tower of Grace. Like, I love how it's just in the palaces.
Well, that's not the Power Sword though.
Well, it looks like the Power Sword.
No, it does look like it, and he tries to pass it off, and Skeletor basically says, "You think I'm a fool?" And then Prince Adam tries to use it to attack him, and Skeletor just crushes it and breaks it into a million pieces.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. But again, it's one of those things where, like, as you're reading this, you think, and then you're like, "Oh, Skeletor just crushed it! Wow!" But because it does look like it.
Yeah.
Like
Then there's an interesting panel where it's where Skeletor's got Adam by the throat, and he says, "I'd been told you never trained." And he says, "I haven't." And then Skeletor says, "Then you're a natural." So there's something there about him having a natural ability to fight, and to already maybe be predestined to become He-Man eventually.
Yeah, and I love that. Like, I love that. I can't tell you how many times in the Filmation series we're 40 something episodes into that show over in Tales of Eternia, and it bugs the crap out of me. I know Adam has to be the bumbler in that cartoon show because that's what it was back then, and that's the story that they're telling, because He-Man has to be this all-powerful, but I've always enjoyed it more when Adam shows great feats of strength.
Well, and this talks about it a little bit. When we get there, we'll bring it up, but they do mention him being this weakling and cowardice character and why he is that way. That next panel, though, on I guess I don't know. According to my thing, it's like the 11th page or whatever. But it's just an incredibly done panel. Number one, you have Skeletor's just his feet, basically towering over Prince Adam, who's cowering down on the ground, basically. And this is Skeletor then again coming and basically saying that he wants the Power Sword. And I love it. Prince Adam says, "You are a monster." And then there's a panel just with his hand in his face where he says, "You don't know the half of it." And I thought that half of the panel was just incredible. Two of my favorite cells of the entire comic book, or frames, or whatever you want to call them.
I love the art in this. The art is amazing. I mean, these panels, these pages, each one of these pages could be its own painting, in my opinion. Like if you took the speech bubbles out and the narration bubbles, took those out and just had the images, I would love to have any of this stuff oversized hanging on my wall.
Oh, yeah.
It's just amazing.
And then we get our first hint that basically Skeletor has a deeper connection to the royal family than we've ever been exposed to before. As he's recognizing things and pointing stuff out, and we kind of get into the history there where they're looking at this tapestry, and then he goes into some origin stuff here where he talks about the legend of King Grayskull, and how he forged the Power Sword, how he fought off the hordes of Hordak, and all from the decrepit castle of his. And as a boy, Skeletor says, "I thought it a fairy story." So then we get kind of this hint that he was around for some reason, and there's something more we want to know.
Yeah, and Hordak looks creepy in that image.
Yeah.
That top panel. And at first, I remember when I first read this, I was like, wow, Grayskull looks weird. Now looking at it again, I'm like, oh, I know why it looks weird, because the power sword's like embedded in the front of it in the ground. It makes it look... it makes it look like a mosquito face, not a skull face to me, because of the long, just the way the sword is.
And so then he basically takes the tapestry down, and the power sword is kind of basically uncovered.
Yeah.
And then we hear Skeletor saying that it's his destiny and that he has Grayskull's blood in his veins, and that he's suffered humiliation, pain. And so we're really getting a little bit into Skeletor too, even though obviously this is the origin of He-Man, but we're getting hints to this deeper story with Skeletor here. So that's an interesting page.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And then it just completely shifts.
Yeah.
We go from the Skeletor and Prince Adam confrontation to basically I don't know how you want to describe this, but Prince Adam and what we'll eventually see as the Sorceress have a connection here, where it's like Prince Adam is basically teleported as far as his mind and soul, I guess, to Castle Grayskull. And that's when the Sorceress basically comes over. What is your thoughts on how the Sorceress looks?
In shadow, I like it. I think it's great. I thought it was interesting. The on that page where she's saying, "I am the sorceress. I have kept watch over Castle Grayskull until the day you came." That is a shadow of the Filmation design, and it's just so cool.
Yeah, and then on the next one you get an actual a little bit more look at her. Now on that first panel where she's just looking at Adam, I really do like the look there, and that's kind of where she says that basically your soul or your mind has traveled here, your body must do the same. But for now, ensure Skeletor does not take the power sword, and then she says your power sword. So that's kind of showing the connection there between Prince Adam and the power sword, and that it's destined to be his. And she says that's your, no choice, that's your destiny. When King Grayskull left this mortal plane, he warned of a war between two of his own blood. One will bring destruction, and the other will fight it back. So that is a very revealing cell there.
Very revealing, and I love her design overall.
As far as saying that they're both of King Grayskull's blood, and then that's her, with her wings spread out, and good lord, I do like the blending of like that. It's almost like one of those Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues where they have the swimsuit painted on.
Yep.
But then there's also a feathery look to it that kind of lends itself to her, her form.
Yep.
The only thing I'm not 100% sure on is the color of her lips. I don't know if I like the purplish dark.
Well, on the close up, yeah, but like you can't notice that on the faraway shots.
No, not on the faraway shots, but when it shows it close like that, it almost reminds me too much of like an Evil Lyn look.
Evil Lyn.
So I don't know about that, but everything else about her I like.
Yeah, no, I love the design when she's saying that you have no choice when her wings are spread out, because this is essentially a 2013 reimagining of what Filmation Sorcerer. I mean, it's her design is blue, orange, and white. This is exactly what Filmation would have looked like.
And then we have one more very revealing statement there where it says, "And only you, Prince Adam, son of King Randor, descendant of King Grayskull, nephew of..." Perhaps you're not quite ready for that yet.
I know! And I was like, wait a minute.
So obviously the second time that they've hinted at the whole nephew connection between Adam and Skeletor. So...
It's just so good. Like, I love reading this this issue. This issue is just
yeah, and then it gets into what you're talking about. Then we get another scene, and holy crap, the picture of her with the Zor head on the next page, that is crazy. Like, that looks
awesome,
perfectly done. Again, I don't like her lips, but everything else about that is awesome. And then it gets into that part where we were talking about right before about why Prince Adam says, he always was scared of King Randor was always scared that this day would come. He let you grow weak and scared. He let you spend your days and nights as you pleased. And basically explaining why he's always been kind of this cowardice, weak individual, even though he had this natural ability to wield the sword, etc. That's an interesting two things. I like how her the one picture of herself blends into the other picture of herself. And how her boot and her hair, I guess you can call it her hair, or her headdress, whatever you want to call it, blends into that close-up of her. Although I'm not quite sure exactly what she's doing in that perch. I don't know if she needed to take a time out for a bathroom break or what there, but...
She kind of looks like Spider-Man pose. I swear, look at that. If her hand was between her legs, like, 3 fingers on the... I swear, it would be Spidey's pose.
Basically, and then she talks about the destiny that he will become He-Man, and that he must save the world and destroy Skeletor, etc.
Yeah, it's just this issue.
The look on her face is crazy,
yeah,
and I like how it blends down into the bottom into kind of like a nothingness.
Yeah, it's just so good.
Her eyes are just like, I don't know, tortured. Very good look there, and then we go back to the halls where Skeletor is still owning Adam.
And it seems like what is going on with the sorceress at the bottom of that page, because that's not Adam. That's her, isn't it? Or is that him? I can't tell.
As far as what?
The bottom of the page. I don't know. That bottom shot, that very bottom panel where the face is screaming. That looks like this. It doesn't look like Adam's face.
Face is screaming.
The bottom of the page where Skeletor says, "Come to me." The very bottom.
Oh, that's just Prince Adam under the...
Is it?
Yeah, that's Prince Adam under the rocks and whatnot.
Oh, that does not look like... it looks like he's wearing Sorceress's lipstick.
But that's just him being tortured still before...
Yeah.
And then we get to where he spots the sword.
Right.
And we're going back to the first panel again, where he's under the rocks and the sword's out there. And we see his hand then on the sword.
On the sword.
And we kind of get...
then the final page is the beginning.
Right.
I love this. This issue is it's so well written. It's the art in it, the drawing, the colors, everything is so well done. The only thing we really don't get a conclusion to is what the hell happened to his parents?
Yeah, his parents are still apparently in stasis there. And we do know, because we've seen him in the first few panels, he does grab the sword, he becomes He-Man, he starts basically battling Skeletor. But really the last thing we see of that is when Skeletor is shooting him with that electricity or electric bolts, and he's kind of in pain, and that's the last we see of that fight.
Yeah.
So that's as far as we go up to, because the rest of it is all the flashback.
Yeah.
So we don't know what happens with that fight either, between that first fight between Skeletor and He-Man.
Yeah. As far as the designs go, I'm so glad that they did not make Adam have a purple vest or a pink vest. I'm so glad. Like, I'm so happy that his vest. Like, I love all the colors in that issue. That issue is just amazing. Every single bit of color that's in that issue is just popping. There are times where Skeletor's face. There are a couple of close-ups on his face that it pops, but it's so subtle. It's just scary as hell.
Yeah, it's definitely a very cool art on that one.
Yeah, very, very awesome. overall, how did you like this, or didn't like
I
it?
mean, I
Or...
had never really thought of anything as far as all this family stuff. So I mean, I do like that there's a connection between Skeletor and the royal family. It makes it so he's not just this like weird alien being that we don't really know where he came from. We'll get more into that obviously in the next issue. But I do like seeing the whole reason why Adam's so weak. And how he first gets the sword for the very first time and becomes He-Man, because that's something we've never seen Adam pre-He-Man. So it was kind of nice to see that, like I said, that dynamic where he's confronted with Skeletor and he can't do anything
Yeah.
because he doesn't know he has the power yet. So good
No,
episode or good issue.
good issue. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I love all the story elements. I hadn't really, like, even a couple of years ago when, I don't know, there was probably a week and a half difference where you and I had simultaneously, individually, gone through the entire 2002 cartoon series. And even back then, it didn't hit me until reading this Origin book. I know in the 2002 cartoon series it says that Keldor is Randor's brother. It didn't even hit me back then that Skeletor is He-Man's nephew. It didn't hit me until this, and I was like, "Oh wow!"
Yeah, I never thought of Skeletor as Uncle Skeletor.
So, all right. Speaking of Uncle Skeletor, we're going to get to his backstory right after this.
All you will taste is the bitterness of defeat, Keldor.
I think not. And the name is Skeletor.
Up next, we get the origin of Bone Brain. That's right. Masters of the Universe, The Origin of Skeletor. Once again, written by Joshua Hale Fialkov. Again, if I'm saying that last name wrong, I'm sorry. The art this time around is done by Fraser Irving. And it looks like Skeletor's in a test tube. or a bottle you would find in a laboratory is really what it is. I love this image.
This one, instead of Masters of the Universe in the origin part at the top, it just says Masters of the Universe at top, and we have the origin of Skeletor down towards the bottom.
Yep.
But completely different style here, not quite the simplistic good guy white background that we got with He-Man. But what's cool about this, and we really have to talk about, is that it gives us our only look at some of Skeletor's henchmen.
Yep, you got Evelyn, you got Trapjaw, you got Triclops,
and then
you got I don't know why Teela's there.
I'm assuming that's Teela and He-Man.
He-Man above Evelyn.
I assume that's who that is.
I don't know. It looks like some blonde chick.
It looks like a guy, but I can't 100% say. But at least Evelyn, Trapjaw, and Triclops. I think Trapjaw and Triclops look really cool. I'm not sure I'm 100% sold on Evelyn. I'd have to see that in a full color design to make a judgment. But I do like the looks of Trapjaw and Triclops, and I like that all these images are coming out of Skeletor's eyes here.
Yeah, it's just creepy as all hell.
Skeletor's looking.
And I love how they've worked, because sometimes the Masters logo doesn't. It's just there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like, you look at the He-Man one and it kind of blends into the sword. And I'll talk about this in a little bit when we get to Hordak. But with this issue, they've really the Masters of the Universe logo sticks out, but you look at that trim at the bottom where it's not like slapping a sticker on a toy box or a toy packaging where, hey, here's the name of the stuff. It's blended into the design so well. Absolutely love it. And we open it up and we see this creepy full-page panel divided up into 4 different panels, and we see Skeletor narration, or Keldor narration, but he's getting his face off, is what he's getting here, ladies and gentlemen. Where's John Travolta and Nicolas Cage when you really need them, right?
Yeah, I kind of wish that image had a little bit more look of the Keldor that we were used to seeing in the 2002 version.
Hmm.
Um, but
I think he's supposed to look young. He's supposed to be younger. He's supposed to be still a child. So
I think that's true. And yeah, he really hasn't been that person yet. But it basically says the first line of this whole book is, and so this is the death of Keldor. And then we do get the family line here. First son of King Miro, brother to King Randor. So we get the whole family tree here. It's King Miro, who has Randor and Keldor.
mhm.
And then obviously Randor has He-Man / Prince Adam. So we got the whole family tree there. We get to know that he was a scientist, a general, and a scholar. Didn't know the whole... I mean, that's kind of interesting to see his, not human, but his pre-Skeletor personality as far as what he was.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was all of those things.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, he's the Keldor personality is he wants to conquer Eternia.
Mhm.
That's
well, he wants the throne. He was, according to him, the obvious heir to the throne,
right.
but he's deemed a half-breed bastard child of a king and subhuman. And then kind of goes into his ego there. He wants to be called something else. Keldor the Mighty, Keldor the Destroyer, Keldor the King. So we're immediately given this thing that there's something about him that's causing them to look at him as a half-breed or as a subhuman. So we're kind of waiting to see what that is. And of course, we're also seeing his face come off here. So we have that.
Well, this whole half-breed thing. Think about it. Randor must have been sleeping around, or not Randor, not Randor.
Miro.
I'm sorry. Miro must have been sleeping around because
Yeah, that's what we're kind of waiting to see what exactly that's all about.
yeah.
So and then it kind of juxtaposes all the names that he wants to be called with Keldor the Fallen, Keldor the Weak, Keldor the Liar, Keldor the Betrayer. And then it says, I will make this right, I will fix my legacy. So it kind of gives you that, kind of like what I talked about when we were talking about General Zod and Man of Steel here. Yes, he's the bad guy,
Right.
but you get that human element that he's not all 100% bad to begin with. You know what I mean? It's human type of situations that are creating this monster out of someone who really didn't have monstrous intentions. He just wants to be considered normal. He doesn't want his blood, genes, etc. to be costing him this. He wants his legacy to be a positive one, but obviously it's going to get thrown off course as he tries to strive for that.
Yeah. And I love that the flashbacks are in black and white. Well, black, white, and green.
Yeah, and real quick though, right before we get that, as his face is coming off, we see him put the hood over.
Yeah.
That's a cool picture, and that kind of in the initial origin of him wearing the hooded cape there. And yeah, then we go into a flashback of King Miro's village, and we see Randor and Keldor running around. They make sure to signify which one Keldor is by having his face a nice Skeletor blue there.
Yeah.
And we
Well,
have
it's this whole thing of that he's a half-breed.
yeah, and then we have one of Hordak's men coming in.
Yeah.
And basically taking Randor. That's an interesting look too to Hordak's man there.
It is
Kind of
very
a badass
so.
man. Like he needs a name. He needs to be a character.
Well, if you look on the next page where Keldor is fighting for his brother,
Mhm.
he's fighting for Randor, and he attacks the guy,
Mhm.
and it looks like, does he hit him or is he in? Yeah,
He hits his arm.
he hits his arm, but it kind of looks like the dude is tied up a little bit. Look at his face. What does his face remind you of?
Darth Vader. When his mask
Really?
gets taken off.
No,
That's what it reminds me of.
not where I was gonna go with that. I was gonna say Destro.
Oh, a little bit there too.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and basically Randor is trying to tell Keldor not to keep fighting. We don't kill. So we have that going on, and they basically get this guy and tie him up and take him to the king there to be interrogated. And then we have this kind of juxtaposition of the current Keldor saying that he needs to find Randor. So he's on a mission. As he's having these flashbacks, he wants to find Randor for some reason.
Yes, for some reason. That never gets explained at all. We'll get to that, though.
And then it sets up the whole thing that Randor, he sees this vision of Randor, and it's saying that, you know, basically that this was Miro's vision, was for Randor to rule.
See, I thought that was Miro.
No,
but I got it.
But that Randor should rule, and that Keldor should be his advisor. And then Keldor's saying, "But I'm older," and he's saying, I asked on your behalf, brother, but you're Gar blood, and we have no idea what that means." I mean, obviously it's in reference to his half-breed and to his, you know, subhuman thing that he is not a full-blood like Randor is, but I don't know what Gar stands for at this point.
Yeah, I don't either.
And basically, it's Keldor being, again, put in this position where he's not good enough for anybody.
Yeah. I just can't get over the... I wish people would draw Randor in the 2000X style and the 2002 cartoon style, because I cannot get over this Burger King style.
Randor looks terrible in that.
It's not just this, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly, it's not. It's the frickin' toys of him. It's everywhere I see Randor today in 2013. He looks like the Burger King. They could be friggin' related. I don't like that style. Even in black and white. I mean, look at that first panel.
His face doesn't look good either.
He's smiling like a friggin'... Like, I just had a couple of Whoppers. Come on, Keldor, you can't be king. You're Gar blood. Gar!
Yeah, it just doesn't look good. I don't like it at all. And then they basically have current Keldor, looking down two paths, one of which is his younger self and Randor and Hordak's man going the one way, and then there's a darker path, and he says, "No, I'm not ready to follow that path, not yet," referring to the one the kids are going down, I'm assuming. Because he then goes down into this other one by himself.
Right.
And it starts talking about his
they
destiny.
Go up, he goes down, yeah.
And then he's like, got this thing going into his neck.
Yeah.
And he's apparently reciting some type of spell and talking to Hordak. That got weird right there.
That is him that says that. See, I thought that was... Yeah.
So I don't know what this thing is that's coming out of his neck.
This is the connection. This is the way that they apparently established the spell connection for Keldor to talk to.
Well, it seems like this is like the first part here where we hear Hordak say, "Who dares?" Oh, it's Keldor, son of Miro, brother of Randor. And then it says, "Congratulations on your ascension." And then he's kind of playing to that thing with Keldor of his inferiority complex. But it is saying that this is not their first conversation, because he says, "The old fool made Randor the king just as you said he would, Lord Hordak."
Yeah.
And then he says, "I'm impure." So apparently they've had conversation before, and they knew this was going to be coming. And Hordak's just kind of teasing him a little bit. He's, "No, you're not impure. You're better than them. You're better than any." All this other stuff. So, and it says, "I'll help you claim what's yours, boy." What do you think of Hordak's look in this one?
It's creepy as all hell, and that look will return in future issues in the current 2013 ongoing series.
I don't like that look.
It's interesting. I'm glad it's not... Is what?
It's too alien.
Well...
And it's not how he looks like in the origins of Hordak.
No, it's not. But... I assume, and we're jumping ahead of ourselves.
Looks like a gremlin in that bottom panel.
Yes, he does. Was that civilized? No, that's not civilized. Can't we all just get along? I love gremlins too. But Hordak's design, I would think at this point the reason why he looks like that, and we'll get to this in Origin of Hordak, is because this is... Alright, I'll just say it right now, and we'll say it later. The Origin of Hordak, which we'll be reviewing after this, takes place 1,000 years before Adam was born. So, if Hordak's ascension to where he is in this issue came 1,000 years before any of this happened, you would think that here Hordak would be an old man, and that's kind of, he looks like an old ass shriveled up alien.
Yeah. That's true. So then we get Keldor still trying to kind of find Randor, and it seems like he's kind of lost and stumbling around. So he sees his younger self again. So it's almost like the whole freaking Christmas Carol here, where he's watching himself.
It's a Wonderful Life. I could never get past the title.
Yeah, and then it goes, it's time to accept your fate.
Yeah.
There's only one master. I'm the master of my own fate.
Have you noticed the whole time his face continues to burn off?
Yep. He's getting more and more, and then he falls, and it seems like he crumbles into a bunch of pieces in that one picture.
Yeah, his cloak. Yeah, wow.
I don't know what that was all about. And then it's, I don't know, this is just weird. Because then he has a conversation. Then Keldor is basically dead. I don't know how young Keldor dies, or no, this is when he actually dies. Okay, I'm with you now. He's been stumbling around because he's been dying and whatnot, and then he finally dies.
Right.
And then he has a meeting with Death, who looks strangely like Skeletor.
Yes, he does.
And he basically says, you've crossed over. And he's all upset that he's dead. But then we go back to him laying on the ground dead, and he gets up. And he's like, I must find Randor again.
Skeletor zombie!
So
Skeletor zombie, yeah.
So then we get the whole confrontation between King Miro, where he's basically saying that, it's all about King Randor. He's showing a lot of favoritism and just basically ignoring Keldor. Mm-hmm. Which obviously isn't good. And then we finally see the actual Randor and Keldor looking in at each other, and Randor seems concerned. Randor looks terrible, by the way, again.
He's still
looks concerned.
Even in the muted reddish pinkish background, he still looks like crap.
Mm-hmm. And he's somewhat concerned for him. He wants to get him to a healer. Keldor is saying it's too late for that. Then Randor asks him why he betrayed us, and he wants to set this right. So just like Keldor before wanted to set his legacy right, now King Randor wants to set it right for him. And then it's interesting between this, because we kind of have this whole conversation, and even Randor says, a Gar can never, be the ruler. And they're kind of sitting down talking to each other, and it's talking about unfair, blah, blah, blah. And then Keldor shows him his face.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get an Enchantress. The Whoppers.
And then Keldor asks for his forgiveness. Kind of an interesting scenario here. Randor's like, I forgive your betrayal. I forgive the war you've caused. I forgive everything. If only I could have been a better brother. And Keldor says, no, forgive me for this. And freaking stabs Randor.
I must have your blood. It is key. This is where I check out with this book. Honestly, they don't explain this at all in the writing.
So he stabs him, gets his blood, and says, and then it's interesting because then he says, we shan't meet again. Well, as what Randor knew him as. Still, I don't like. And Randor, no, I don't know if his reaction is because he realized something that the writers aren't telling us, or if he's screaming out no because of his brother. But it seems as if Randor knows something about this, that Skeletor needed his blood. That we don't know why he needs his blood.
It all goes back to the bloodlines and everything else. And
but he does have the bloodline, so he needs pure blood. Maybe I don't know what he needs the blood for. It's not really explained. So then he goes back to Hordak and basically says, tell Hordak I've done it. He looks like he's defeated there because he's sad that he just stabbed his brother and whatnot. And then we have alien Hordak. Just looks ridiculous.
Yeah, that
Frankenstein.
I put some glasses on him, he could be the brain gremlin right there.
Yeah. And that's basically when he turns him into, and then we have the whole Star Wars moment where he says, "Rise, my apprentice." Um,
Rise, my Skeletor!
and then we get the final thing where it looks like Skeletor and whatnot. I just have to say, overall, looking at this one versus the Origin of He-Man, the design, writing, coloring, artwork in the Origin of He-Man is 1,000 times better than it is in this one. I'm sorry, the guy doing the He-Man one just had it. Like you said before, like the colors were popping, everything, all the different schemes that were going were good. Everybody looked good in their design. Sorceress, He-Man, Skeletor, and everything. Everything looks hokey in this one.
Well, it's because of that black and white transition for from the present to the past. I don't
even think that. I think it's just more so in the, like, you have that initial frame, which is Keldor's face starting to burn off. That I don't mind. After that, though, the faces on everybody just look silly. The faces on Randor and Keldor as young children look silly. The faces on Randor, no matter what age, look terrible.
Well, Randor, when he's very young, he looks like Adam
at
certain points in the black and white stuff.
I think Hordak looks silly.
Yeah.
I think all the flashbacks look amateur or childish. The only things that ever look good are the faces on Keldor as his face is burning off, and then there's that one scene where Keldor, as seemingly not a child and not a full adult, more of almost like a young adult when he's visiting death. Those scenes are probably the best. That's probably the best page of the comic.
Right. Oh, yeah.
When they show him laying down and when they show him his cape, it just looks, there's no detail, there's no shading, it's just like this figure walking through, and I just don't like it. I don't think King Miro looks good. I don't know. This is not visually pleasing like that first one was.
I still like the art in it. I just wish we had, like, what really brings this down for me, and really it's only going to bring it down 1 star, really, because I've never seen a Skeletor story like this. I mean, we've seen the 2002 cartoon where we saw his face burned off by a deflected poison in a battle, but like, I really do like the art in it, and I think the art in certain places, yes, you're right, it does suffer from the whole transition from reds and purples in present day to basically black, white, green, and red in the past, and that's not a good transition, but overall, I still very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, if this was, I don't know, if this was the only comic book issue that I saw, and I hadn't seen the He-Man one, I probably wouldn't have read anymore. I mean, I don't mind the writing of some of it and whatnot. I just am turned off to the whole style used by this artist.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get to the final issue of the day, The Origin of Hordak, after this.
The king is defeated. The true prize is now within my reach. The conquest of Eternia.
Alright, the last issue of the day is released a couple weeks ago. Masters of the Universe, The Origin of Hordak. This is written by the current writer of the... Keith Giffen took over the mini-series last year, I think at issue 2. He started full-on writing for Masters in issue 3 of the mini-series, and he's currently writing the new 2013 ongoing Masters of the Universe. So he's the writer. Keane and Robles are the artists and colorists. What do you think of the cover here?
Definitely happy that it doesn't look like Alien Hordak that we saw in the Origin of Skeletor. This is more so how I want Hordak to look. It definitely showing him a badass, and I was definitely excited to see who he was cowering over.
Yeah, now that I've read it, I kind of... Well, even before I've read it, looking back on it, I should have known.
Yeah, I saw that, and that's immediately what I thought. I was like, ooh, Hordak and Zodak.
Just by the helmet, I should have known.
And I'd never really placed the connection between their names either, Hordak and Zodak.
Zodak, yeah.
Like, they have the same ending. There's a connection there, and I never realized that.
Well, now Zodak, I don't know if it's in this one. There's always been 2 different spellings for Zodak. It's either Zodak with a C or Zodak with a K. And I forget we'll get into it, but I forget off the top of my head what which one this one is. Horde World. Oh wow, not 1,000. Horde World. 1,000,000 years before the birth of Adam. So, when he's in Origin of Skeletor, the reason why he looks like Brain Gremlin from Gremlins 2 is because he's really old.
Well, yeah, but I guess my problem is that I don't see this turning into that. I don't see the connection, even if you do age him. And just because I'm exposed to all the other stuff from before, Skeletor and Hordak always coexisted in the same time frame, looking like they did that we're used to. So it's just kind of a little disconnect there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely are brought into this whole battle. We see that there's some type of apocalyptic war going on here, or actually that has just ended, it seems like, where not only Hordak's people, but all the people have basically been wiped out, except for Zodak and Hordak.
Yeah, I need to make a correction myself. It's not Roblish, it's Scott Koblish that does the inks. Like on the cover, to me at first, like at a distance when I looked at it, it looked like an R. But yeah, no. And the title of this one is Devil's Due.
And yeah, so we basically have Zodak surviving this onslaught and realizing that Hordak also has survived, and he's basically trying to put together what the reasoning for this is, what's going on, what's to come of all of this, where is Hordak, and he's basically just searching around for it and trying to come to terms with what the heck just happened.
Yeah. Now, I gotta ask, because when I wrote my spoiler-free written review of this, I had to read this twice and look at this panel multiple times, this full-page battle shot. Because I thought that the thing on the left-hand side, I thought that was Horde Prime's hand.
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be just a random hand.
I know, but it is a hand, right?
Yeah.
It's not. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that I realized it was an actual.
Yeah, it's just
hand.
a fallen person's hand, I think.
Okay.
So we get Zodak, like I said, just getting up, stumbling around, seeing the devastation, and trying to come to terms with what the fuck just happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then out of nowhere, it's like boom. There is Hordak.
Yeah, I don't like the design on Zodak in this, on his face, on that next panel, on the next page,
Lower left.
Yeah,
that's the first close up, and I don't really care for that either. It makes him look like a superhero.
It doesn't even make it looks like his jaw is gonna fucking fall off people. It really does. It's just...
Yeah, they shouldn't really mess too much with the originals. The original Zodak is so badass looking that you really didn't need to change it much. So I kind of wish they wouldn't have. But it's interesting once he finally gets confronted there with Hordak there, and Hordak's basically trying to explain that that he's the one that caused all this. He's the one that influenced Zodak to do things and his people. And Zodak's like, wait a second, we have barriers so people can't mess with our minds. Our minds are closed to your vile. But apparently Hordak is powerful enough to even influence.
He's changed all that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, that's no moon.
Right. So Hordak's basically saying that he's the one that caused all this. He was the orchestrator between all of this. He's the puppet master. He's pulling all the strings. And Zodak's like, wait a second, millions of Horde are dead too. And he's like, not dead, transformed. From energy were they born as matter, and do they return after death? And then it's basically saying that he ate them all.
Yeah, I swear, this is almost like Keith Geffen is really emulating Joss Whedon here. For the audience and for you too as well, Kev, you don't know this because you don't watch the show. There's a show that Joss Whedon did. It's called Angel. There's an episode, there's a whole arc in season 4 where Angel has to fight this old demon who, in order to survive and keep her shape, she eats people. So this is pretty much the same thing here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, listeners have to understand that I read this after reading... This came out after the first 2 issues of the current ongoing, and the current ongoing is just amazing. It really, really is. So I read this after the fact of those first 2 issues, and because of the way that this was released. And I gotta say, I do not like Geffen's writing in this. I wish I could say otherwise that I did, but I just... Like I said before, I had to actually read through this story.
This is definitely the most abstract and confusing one out of all of them.
It's so friggin' confusing.
And basically we have Hordak saying, millions died, and I gorged for myself. I took what they so carelessly cast away, their energy, the souls, the raw essence of creation. And they all are within him, and all of them consumed to serve my ambitions. And then he's saying, come to me, Zodak. And fulfill my final prophecy. And Zodak's like, final prophecy? And Zodak says, there will come a day when the old god shall pass from the realm, and the avatar of all that is good shall do battle with the avatar of all that is evil, and so will the fate of the universe be cast. So it's basically setting up...
Bender when you really need them.
Basically setting up this whole good versus evil thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Well,
then it does set up a little bit, because then Zodak does, basically, who knows the beast better than Zodak, who has fought him to a standstill countless times over countless millennia. So obviously they have a history there. But then it's interesting, because then it says, no more, I am not my brother's keeper.
So basically Zodak and Hordak are brothers, people.
And the only reason that bugs me is because we already set up the whole He-Man and Skeletor family relations.
No.
So now we're going to have Zodak and Hordak be family. I mean, I get it. Their names are similar, and then they both do have the whole legacy of always being around longer than all the other characters that we know about.
Yeah.
And then we have Hordak holding this skull, and it says, do you see, Father? Do you see what has become of the son you spurned, who you cast away?
Yeah.
With righteous rage he comes, vengeance incarnate. Yeah. So there's something that happened similar to what happened to Keldor, where...
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know whose head he's holding there. I don't know who Hordak's father is.
I don't know either.
But it's a similar thing where he's spurned and cast aside just like Skeletor was.
Yeah.
So a lot to be explained there. And then there's another talk of here's another line with the brother and the father here. This is, whose face will he see? Should he be the one to strike the death blow, the much beloved brother, or the most honored father?
So, is he saying that he's Zodak's father now?
I don't know.
I'm so confused with it. I've read this book 3 times, and I'm still confused as all fuck.
Yeah, I don't. And then it says, he comes to anoint me, Father. By his blood shall I be coronated master of all, master of the universe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Honestly, the very next page is really where I was like, oh, that's kind of cool design.
Yeah.
Because the very next page we see the appearance of Leech. Which I thought that was... Huh?
And they mentioned the Fright Zone.
Yeah, they mentioned the Fright Zone.
So, I mean, I get this whole good versus evil. I'm not 100% sure what family connection. I mean, I'm thinking they're saying Zodak and Hordak are brothers, but then they're talking about a father who they don't really get to. So,
it's just too confusing. And then Zodak calls him, like a couple of pages ahead, Zodak calls him brother. So, it's just... Reading this again makes my head hurt, people. It really does. I kid you not. I'm going to have to take some ibuprofen right now because just reading... what was Keith Geffen thinking? Don't get me wrong, people. I like him as a writer. I like what he's currently doing in the ongoing, but this is the strangest story in comic books that I've read since I've been reading comics since last October. This is by far the strangest tale ever.
Yeah, and then they basically have another confrontation where they call each other brother, and it's like blood to blood, as it was meant to be, as it was foretold, good against evil. In my image, brother, the universe shall be remolded in my image. And then Zodak's like, a god? Is that what your monstrous ego has led you to delusions of godhood? Not a god, the god. Madness, divine madness, brother. And then it says, mine is the power of millions sacrificed to my glory, lives given that I should know this moment, no weapon can harm me.
I still hate Zodak's design. All these like Hordak's close-ups, Hordak's design looks amazing. It looks like a combination of the Filmation face with the 2000X black and white, or even the toy design from Masters Classics or the original MOTU line.
On page 15, though, Zodak in the bottom right corner just looks stupid when he's all beat up.
That's where I said.
Yeah.
Hordak almost looked like he has a Looney Tunes moment on the very next page, top right.
And then it says, this is coming from Zodak, or from Hordak now. Speaking of Zodak, he says, you were always the impetuous one, the first to act, the last to repent. So certain of yourself, so dedicated to your ideals, so easily manipulated.
Right. Yeah.
And saying that he's been defeated by Zodak multiple times, and he learned and learned. But then he's saying that basically Zodak is arrogant and overconfident and never learned anything.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that's interesting. And then he wants him to join him.
Yeah, we got to talk about this page for a second because fan of the Geekcast Radio Network, Patrick Moore on Facebook pointed this out to me, and I didn't notice this, but you look at the bottom left, very top. That is a bat symbol. And the way that the cape looks, it looks like Batman's cape. Bottom right.
Wait, where are we talking about? Which page?
After he says, join me.
Yeah.
The one where he's saying, reject you. I expect no less. Very bottom of that page, bottom left.
Well, that's always been his symbol.
No. I know it's always been Hordak's symbol, but look at the bottom right.
Yeah, that does definitely look like Batman silhouette.
That's Batman. Now, the reason why I think that they threw this in with this art, because this was released on June 5th, I believe, June 5th or June 12th. The reason why that the Batman shadow is here is because coming up later this year, they're going to do DC Universe versus Masters of the Universe in the comics.
Yeah, but as far as the red bat looking like thing, that's always been Hordak's thing.
I know, but it's not. It has been, yes, you're right, but not in the way that it's designed. In that it looks more like a bat logo from Batman to me than it does the Hordak bat logo. But you're right.
I don't see that, but I definitely do see the silhouette as far as Batman's shadow. That's definitely Batman's fate or head shadow type thing.
Yeah, this is definitely Batman's shadow.
So then he wants him to join him, and Zodak says that he rejects that. So Hordak kind of basically walks away, and it says, in the beginning there was Hordak. Let the rest of Hordak's testament be written in blood. By the power of darkness incarnate, I have the power.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I mean, I think it's kind of cool that they reuse the line, but this whole story, it's so weird. It's just like, I don't understand what Geffen was going for here. Because in the current ongoing, without spoiling it for Kev, because I know he wants to eventually read it once I send him the stuff digitally, but in the current ongoing, it's so different from what this is, and I almost wish I didn't even pick this issue up. I really almost do. I wish I never picked this up. The art is very cool, except for the fact that Zodak looks like a baby with a helmet on. The design on Zodak, it's so god awful.
I think with comics, at least, I mean, obviously I'm not a comic connoisseur or whatever, but as I view it, I kind of have to view them separately. Like, I can rate each one art against each other, and then I have to rate each one's writing and story against each other.
Yeah.
because they seem like they're completely separate things. Like you could really like the story and what's being said and not like the art, or really like the art and not like the story.
Yeah, see, that's where I come in. Let's see, here, outside of Zodak's design, I really like the art with Hordak and the backgrounds and the whole purples and reds and blacks, and I like all that. The story is just god-awful. It really, really is. It just is, and it's just so bad. The designs, though, outside of Zodak's design, the designs are great.
It's just a completely different style.
Yeah,
all three of them are completely different styles.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, but I guess with being just single-shot origins, they can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, they can. So, I don't know.
Are we doing overall thoughts on all of them? Or?
We will in a minute. Any other thoughts on Hordak's issue?
I mean, I like seeing his background and that there's a Zodak-Hordak connection. I don't know how I feel about this whole family brother type thing and what the father thing issue is, and there's a lot of stuff not completely explained, but I know they can't explain everything, but there's just some stuff that happens that you're just like, what? But yeah, I don't like Zodak's design, but everything else visually is fine. Not necessarily the style that I would choose to be a fan of.
Right.
But I'm not anti. It doesn't like turn me off like some of the style of the second one did. So.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. You're going to hear some ads and some other stuff, and we'll be back after this with final thoughts and ratings.
50 years ago, a little old man brought his little blue box to a junkyard, and now Doctor Who is a cultural phenomena worldwide. Join the Geekcast Radio Network and Mark Who 42's Whoniverse as we review Doctor Who episodes past and present, discuss the Doctor's friends and enemies, see where the Doctor's been, where he is, and where he's going. Sit back and grab a jelly baby and join Mark Who 42's Whoniverse. It's the ride of this and every other lifetime.
Fantastic.
Allons-y.
Hello, pop culture connoisseurs. Do you gain a dark sense of peace when the guilty are punished by a violent vigilante? If so, maybe you should get some therapy, and then subscribe to Punisher Body Count, the net's best podcast concerning all things Frank Castle. I'm Dane Lamont. My co-host Jake Williams and I cover the good, the bad, and the hilarious on the Punisher comics, movies, and news. Do you like chummy co-host banter? We got that. You need to get your fucking
No, you need to fucking pay attention to the fucking movie.
You want kick-ass guest interviews? How about Mike Barron and Tom Jane?
You know, I like a little bit of grit in my cigar.
You want carefully considered in-depth analysis?
I mean, yeah, just won Best Picture at the Oscars yesterday. I mean, it's no Terminator. It was still,
Good luck with that. Punisher Body Count, twice a month on Geekcast Radio.
So let's say you're looking for a podcast of your favorite 80s comic books, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Ninja Turtles, He-Man, etc. Where are you going to go to find us?
Welcome to Star Joe's Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm Chuck. That's right, everybody. We're the Star Joes. We host a podcast called Star Joe's Podcast, where we talk about your favorite comic books, your favorite toys of all the 80s properties.
Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Mask, Thundercats, Voltron, you name it, we cover it. If it's in the 80s, we'll cover it at some point.
Yes, so what you want to do to find us, you can go to iTunes, you can go to www.starjoes.com.
And remember, the Force will be with you.
Because knowing us is half the battle.
By the power of GRayskull, I command the drawbridge. Open!
Yes, that's right. We have traveled to Eternia to enter Castle Grayskull. Join OptimusSolo and TFG1 Mike as they find themselves telling tales of Eternia. We cover all things He-Man in this 45-episode-long podcast. You can find us on iTunes and www.geekcastradio.com. By the power of Grayskull, we all have the power.
Are you looking for a weekly dose of gaming news and retro? And check out Off the Cuff, available Fridays on Geekcast Radio Network from the producers of XRG. New name, same.
I think this is where I make my exit.
Alright, so we are back, and for final thoughts and ratings, we're going to start with Origin of He-Man. I had written up my review of this, and I did write a spoiler-filled review of this. It was before we had the GCRN rating system, 0 to 5 stars, with half points in there as well. I wrote this up before that was in place, but I'm going to give it 5 stars. I think outside of some of the story elements, which I think in my case are nitpicks, I really enjoyed the story. I mean, yeah, we don't get a real answer as far as how that battle and how his parents came out, but I love it. I love the writing. I love the art. It's just amazing.
For me, it's the best of out of all the art and all the visuals and design we have. It's the best that we saw out of these three. Story-wise, it's the best out of the three, so it's definitely the superior issue out of the three. I will probably land somewhere in like 4.5. I'm not going to say that it's perfect or anything like that, but
it's almost perfect.
It's close. It's 4.5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah. For Origin of Skeletor, if the story didn't just if the story had explained why they need Randor's blood, I would have enjoyed it really more. When I wrote the review up of it, my rating was 4 stars. Really liked it because I really did like it. I did enjoy reading it when I was reading it. Yes, the art is kind of here or there. But what about you?
For me, it's the second best story we got out of the three. Not quite as good as what we had with the He-Man one, but I dug most of the story. A few issues here and there, but nothing major. I think it's the worst out of the artwork and the design and the visuals and all that stuff goes. I really didn't like it at all. I think a lot of it looked amateur as far as how it was drawn. The attention to detail and shading and shadowing and texture and edging and stuff like that wasn't there. I thought Hordak looked retarded, as did King Randor, as did King Miro, as did all the flashback scenes except for the Hordak's man guy. So I think the visuals really brought it down for me. I'll probably give this one like 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, that's what I give it too. 3 out of 5. It's just it's barely passing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're analyzing it, and I can look at the art a little bit more clearer and everything else. But Hordak, I don't know. I think for me, with the Hordak issue, I'm almost gonna have to go against what I rated it, which was 3 stars, barely passing in the written review, because it's just, the story is so convoluted. You don't know what the hell is going on. Hordak and Zodak are the only 2 characters that we've ever heard of that are even. It's basically their story, but it's their story a million years before anything we ever knew. So obviously Skeletor's not going to be there.
The story suffers because, for me, it's unnecessary pages upon unnecessary pages at times. It's so many pages, and the information that we get in the important part doesn't add up. Like, for me, they're not telling us enough in the amount of pages they use to do it. I don't need to see panel after panel of Zodak stumbling around. I don't need to see panel after panel of Hordak trying to convince Zodak, or this whole dialogue between the two. I need some more important information or some action or something, and it just seems like it drug a little bit. It was the worst story out of the 3.
Yeah, it was the worst story, and some of the art on Zodak specifically is just horrendous. It really, really is.
Overall, though, I do like the art better than the Skeletor one.
Honestly, I like the Skeletor. Even though there are issues with the Skeletor art, I really liked.
The only reason I say that is because I like that at least it looks like it was a little harder to draw and to come up with. There's a lot of detail and especially what they did with Hordak. I really like how they designed him on that 3rd one, and it just seems like, even though it's a lot more going on and it's more typical of what I think of when I think of comic book art, And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it's more typically that style, it seems like, in the ones that I've been exposed to. And it's not my favorite style, but I like it better than kind of the blandness that I saw in the Skeletor one. But it's still the worst story.
Yeah, and because it's the worst story, I'm going to have to go against what I wrote. I originally rated the Hordak issue 3 stars, which on our rating system is barely passing. I have to take it down to 2 stars. I disliked it going back and reading it again before we recorded this. The story, I cannot follow it. I don't understand it. Half of the dialogue is just because it's set in quote-unquote olden times.
It's a bad example. I mean, I don't know this guy's writing at all, but the other 2 issues, in much less words, much more was conveyed.
Yeah, exactly.
In this one, there's a whole lot of words with a lot less being conveyed, and that's just boring to me. I'm going to give it 2.5, just a notch above yours, but still the worst. If you combine them all, like the He-Man one's the best for me. Yeah. And then there's parts of each of the other 2 that are better than parts of the other 2. Like, some parts are better, some parts are worse. But I think overall, the story of the Skeletor one raises it enough compared to the artwork that I slightly prefer on the Hordak one.
Yeah. I would say that the He-Man one has both amazing writing and art. Skeletor has great writing, but art spotty in places. And Hordak has terrible writing and amazing art. I just don't get it. So reading these, are you interested in seeing what is going on in the current ongoing? I mean, after reading these, do you want to read more of Masters stuff?
I like all things Masters, so I want to be exposed to all of it eventually. It's just a matter of working it into my schedule and catching up with stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, where can the people interact with you online?
The best thing to do is to tweet me at OptimusSolo. If you actually put me in the tweet, I will see it and I will look it up and I will read about it. Otherwise, you can find me stumbling around GeekCastRadioNetwork.com or BehindTheVoiceActors.com in the forums or in comments on different pages and whatnot.
Stumbling is the key word there, folks.
For sure.
Pizza delivery people aren't supposed to be drunk. You can find me at TFG1 Mike. You can also follow at Geekcast Radio on Twitter. And in the end of the show, we'll have Steve give us the full contact info for the network. So I have no idea what's coming up next for episode 23 on the Pull Bag. No clue. As I've said many times, I said it in episode 19, I said it in episode 20 and 21, we are working towards, in the coming months here in the Pull Bag, having theme months where we will do 4 episodes, or 5, depending on if it's 4 or 5 week month. We will do 4 or 5 episodes on a specific character, whether that be Batman, Spider-Man, Masters of the Universe, Transformers, whatever it is. In the future, we will be having theme months in addition to the current coverage that we do, because this show is all about current comics, and these Origin books are fairly current. They're a couple of years old. We will be having back issue classics in the coming months and years, and that's when we'll go back and do some older stories and stuff like that. So you can find us in iTunes and all the other good places online. And until next time, keep reading those comics. We will talk to you later.
You just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, GCRN's comic book review podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you were leaving the message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can send us an email, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter @GeekcastRadio. So until next time, Unleash the geek in you.